Hi, friend. I can't believe it has already been another week since I spoke to you last, but it is finally starting to look like spring, feel like spring outside, and it inspired me to start moving everything around in my room. I used to do this as a kid. When I was younger, I would kind of decide I was tired of everything I had in my room and just kind of rearrange it, and then it felt like a brand new room. And I decided this room definitely needed that. So here I'm showing you the before, and I'm embarrassed to say that was the before, but we had been doing a lot of traveling when I first put this room together, and I just kind of neglected it entirely. And it's supposed to be my room and the guest room, my office, my craft room, all of the things, but it just kind of felt impersonal to me, and I really wanted to enjoy this space and be inspired to make more things and spend time in this room. So here I am doing the laborious task of moving this bed. I thought because the frame was super light that moving this bed would be super light. It was not. Luckily, this was in a time lapse, so you couldn't see how much I was struggling. It was definitely harder than I anticipated. Moving into the closet now. This is where I keep all my crafts and all the things that vinyl, any acrylics, any wood projects that I work on, anything that you can think of that I might need is typically in this closet, and it just got out of hand. The vinyl was thrown everywhere. I didn't really know how I had organized it prior. I don't think I did organize it prior, and it was making it harder for me to actually want to make anything. And I only have my subscription for another month on Cricut, so I really wanted to utilize it as much as I possibly could. And now here's the after. So I moved the two desks together to make kind of like an L-shaped desk, and I think that works best because I don't know if you can see, but there is like a clear section on my desk. This desk was created for someone who's going to do sketching, and I just really needed a larger desk to do crafts on, so I didn't mind that I had that, and I thought it'd be good if I was actually cutting, but I haven't used it, and I won't use it because the lights are actually broken when I bought it. So I just decided that space would be good to put my ironing board on. That way I have quick access and I don't have to keep taking it out and putting it back in the closet and taking it back out. And I think this works really well. I'm able to kind of move back and forth between the two, and then having that bed by the window has made a huge difference. Just being able to lay there and see out, I really enjoy it. So now moving into the pillow sham. I don't remember any of the videos if I had mentioned that I was going to make this pillow sham, but as you saw, the bed is kind of bare, and I just wanted a full rehaul on it. In my sewing class that I have, we had made those quilted pillowcases that you saw, the green and the white ones on the bed, and it inspired me to make the whole bed kind of garden themed. So going along with that, I grabbed another greeny, I would say a little bit darker than a sage green, but somewhere along that color palette of a color, so then I could do this pillow sham. And I spoke with the woman who runs the sewing class, and she suggested an envelope so you can take it in and out, and that way I wouldn't have to spend money on a zipper. And I think it turned out really good. I need to still do a top stitch on it, so it's not fully complete, and I also need to get another 2 yards of fabric to do the other one. I thought 2 yards would suffice for the two pillows, and it did not, so I need to go get some more fabric. I will follow up with that on the next video so you can see it all completed. But now we're going into my favorite part, baking. I had taken a little bit of a break since the last video of baking, and by break I mean like 3 days, but that was a long time for me. So getting back into the swing of things, I was low on bread and I was low on breakfast items. All of the things that I made from the last video I used to make bulk menu items. So the English muffins, I made an English muffin breakfast sandwich that I had, and they made 10 of them, so I've had them for 2 weeks now, but it's at the end of the week and I'm running out, so I needed to fill that gap in my meal. And then also we were out of bread entirely. The bread that I told you about last time that was a little bit too light and just didn't look right actually ended up molding, so I definitely feel like there might have been some user error, let's just say that. So here I'm making the discard bagels. I'm starting with half a cup of discard. I just filled my measuring cup with 2 cups of water, warm to hot water, let's say. And then I'm putting, I believe, 2.5 or 3.5 teaspoons of active yeast, and then we're doing 3 tablespoons of sugar here, and then I just added the salt, and now adding the 5.5 cups of flour that is needed for this recipe. The English muffin was really good because I was able to use up my all-purpose flour, but this bagel recipe called for a majority of my bread flour bag, so I'm going to need to go to the grocery store and grab some more. But this is pretty straightforward. I really enjoyed the instructions or the recipe that I followed. I'll have that link below as always. But it was easy to understand, and I feel like we ended up with a good result. The only thing that might have been a fail was the cream cheese I tried to make, but that is because I didn't follow any instructions. I just made it up. So that is totally expected. Putting it in just to make sure that all of the flour gets combined, and then as I was doing that, I was preheating my oven so then I could put my sourdough loaf in there. Now the recipe did say to use a mixer or a KitchenAid mixer for 10 to 13 minutes kneading with the dough hook, but my KitchenAid actually is a little bit older. I got it as a hand-me-down and I love it. It works great if I'm making cookies, but I've learned if I need to knead something for longer than 3 to 5 minutes, it overheats and it gets a terrible electronic on fire smell. So I actually prefer hand kneading. So I just took the 10 minutes, sat on the phone with one of my friends, and just kneaded the dough together, and it was really nice. My favorite thing about what I'm doing now is making things with my hands. So kneading dough for 10 minutes is honestly a great joy, and I enjoy it so much. It makes me so happy seeing it all come together. You can see in the beginning it's not entirely together, and I think if I did leave it in there in my KitchenAid mixer to just mix by itself, it wouldn't have come together the way that it did it in my hand. So I'm glad that I took the liberties and decided to do that. But you can see it come together, and it's just so nice, and I don't know, you just feel proud of it. I'm using the suggestions of someone who commented saying that they didn't see me put any butter or olive oil into my sourdough loaf, and I was like, well, why would I? That's not what the recipe called for, but they said that it made it a lot softer and just a little bit more fluffier. So I said that I would follow up and in a future video, and that's what I'm doing now. I actually did use that for this version. I figured, olive oils never hurt. So I put 2 tablespoons of olive oil in there, and I will say the dough was a little bit wetter, which is expected because you're adding more liquid to it. But I mean, everything else came together the same way. It actually, I feel like, baked a little bit faster. I typically do 30 minutes uncovered, and that's what it looked like. And that's typical. But for the 20-minute mark that I typically bake it at, I feel like it was a little bit more golden. My last 3 bakes, I sat it in there for like 25 minutes, I would say, to get it just a little bit browner. So I think overall that might have helped, or just got the right recipe or the right dough proportions, and that's how it came out. But I was super happy with that. After I incorporated all of that, I let it rest for about an hour. I covered it with plastic wrap like it said, but I didn't really think it was going to be that airtight seal that I needed, so I also put my Banneton cover on top of it, and then I placed that in the microwave for an hour I was using my oven. And now I am just going to get 160 grams out of each one just to get a little bit of a bigger bagel. The last bagels I made were quite tiny, and they were good. They were just so dense because they were so small. So I figured I would try to make a little bit of a bigger one, and so I used this recipe to emulate a New York style bagel. Here I am just taking any air bubbles out of the dough, just squishing out any air bubbles that might exist. And then I'm just rolling it all together to make a smooth circle, pinching the ends that might not have come together with rolling, and then just placing them on the counter. And then I am going to continue rolling this. And then out of the 10 I made, 6 are going to be everything but the bagel seasoning. And then 4 of them are actually going to be a cinnamon bagel. I'm making these for my husband because he always used to get them from Panera Bread, and he got that with blueberry cream cheese, and they stopped selling it, and he got really upset by it. And since losing my job, he's been really, 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 really great, and has been super supportive and helpful, and has really just taken it in stride, and I couldn't be more grateful. So although I'm not able to contribute money-wise, I'm trying to contribute in the sense of baking as much as I can. I just wanted to do something for him since he's done so much for me over this past couple months. So yeah, that is what I'm doing, just honoring and trying to do things for him. But in saying that, I've made a terrible mistake thinking that I could make blueberry cream cheese by myself without any form of recipe. I did later on look up a recipe, and I was kind of close. I just decided that mushing it was actually better than putting it on the stove and cooking it out, which makes way more sense before mixing it in with the cream cheese. But, you live and you'll learn. He said we'll just buy some, and that works for him, but he got some bagels out of it, which was nice. But as you saw, I was using a sugar bath to pre-bake or pre-boil the bagels before they went into the oven. I did say I was going to use the baking soda method that I used in the bagels from the last video, but I honestly got scared and I didn't want to mess it up. So I just did what it said, and it worked out okay. Next round, I might try that just to see if there's a difference. But after I put the bagels in for 30 seconds on both sides, flipped them in between, and put them on the baking sheet, I immediately put the toppings on so I wouldn't have to use an egg wash, and then I placed them in the oven. It said do it as soon as you can, so I just put in the everything bagel first, and then once I finished the cinnamon, I put that in as well. And then as 15 minutes went by, I just swapped them, and then I cooked them for another 10 to 15 minutes, and they came out really nice and golden. And here I am cutting into my sourdough. I didn't want to wait, but I wish you could have seen my last few that I cut into. It was like I was sawing wood, and the way that it just went through like butter was actually wild to me. And it's got really nice holes. It's got good growth. I could definitely feel like there was gluten being formed when I was mixing it together there. And here you can see it's so squishy and tender. It was really nice. I think adding the olive oil was a really good touch, and I think they were right. It did make it softer, but my husband and I just kind of like the hard, like Carrabba's kind of bread, so I think we're gonna stick with that. But it was a good thing to try, and now I know if there's someone out there who wants a softer bread, use the same recipe that I did, and then just add 2 tablespoons while you're adding the flour the first time, or you can do it when you're adding the salt. Before you do your stretch and folds, just make sure you add it in there. And then here's the fail that's going on. You can see it happening, unfolding before us, but that's okay. I mean, this is all, again, a journey. I'm just trying things out, seeing what happens, but I had good intentions, and I think that's what mattered to him at the end of the day. Here I am taking them out of the oven, making sure that they're nice and golden on top, and they are, and they look so good, and they smelt really good. I wish you could smell the cinnamon that came out of the oven. It was so nice, and it's just another one of those moments where I'm like, I made that. How cool is that? I'm just so happy that I took the chance to try to make something that initially scared me. I made a list earlier in the week of all the things that I want to make, and a lot of those things are things I never thought I could make. They sound kind of scary. Again, it comes back to doing the first step, trying, and then seeing where it goes, and I'm very happy to say that this went well. Again, besides the cream cheese, but these turned out really, really good. I have had the cinnamon one since. I just wanted to try it. I'm just so happy and proud of myself. And coming from last week, a week where I felt like I just couldn't win, being able to produce positive things and see things that I made with my hand. It was a great way to end this week, being able to reflect back and see all the things that I have positively made an impact on within this week. Something as small as making a pillow sham or bagels. Like when I felt like I did last week, I felt like I just wasn't able to do anything. And now looking back on this week, I can see I very much can. And I'm very proud of that. So that is all I have for this week. Next week, I'm super excited. We're going to be doing some St. Patrick's Day themed things. So stay tuned for that. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week. I'll see you all in the next video.